Good morning, students. Stay safe, stay at home. Let us continue the principles of inheritance with lecture number 6 in today's class. In the previous lecture, I told you about monohybrid cross, Mendelian monohybrid cross. Some of the key points related to monohybrid cross we saw in the previous class. In the monohybrid cross, you have to remember that the phenotypic ratio of a monohybrid cross is 3:1. You must recall what is a monohybrid cross. It is the cross between two individuals with reference to one character. So its phenotypic ratio is 3:1. Genotypic ratio of a monohybrid cross is 1:2:1. You may be remembering. Okay, recall this point. So this is the phenotypic and genotypic ratio. Out of this 1:2:1, you must know one is homozygous tall. Homozygous tall means they had two capital T in them. Okay, two capital T is called as homozygous tall. One of them is two capital T. It can be written as 1/4. It can be called, or 25% like that. It can be told. Two of them will be 2 out of the 4. They are called as heterozygous tall. You may be recalling this point also. Heterozygous tall means it will be having one capital T and one small t in it. That is a 2 in number, 2/4 like that. And the remaining one, that 1/4 is called as recessive parent. You know that recessive parent can always be homozygous only. So it is homozygous dwarf, we can say. And here only we come across 2 small t in this condition. Now recall this point. Dominant can occur in 2 ways. A dominant character can occur in 2 ways. Either it can occur in homozygosity or it can occur in heterozygosity. Outwardly, phenotypically or morphologically, this plant is tall only. But internally, genetically or genetic makeup, genotypically, it may be either capital T or it may be capital T small t. So, genotype is unknown. It is internal, we cannot see it directly. But phenotype can be observed directly. So now the question is, how to identify the genotype of an individual? How to identify whether this tall is made up of 2 capital T or 1 capital T and 1 small t, whether it is homozygous or heterozygous, how to identify? For that, Mendel himself introduced a method called as test cross. Yesterday, I explained you about test cross also. Just you can recall this point. What is a test cross means? It is the cross between F1 hybrid with its recessive parent. So F1 hybrid with its recessive parent is called as, what is that, test cross we can say. What is the advantage of test cross? Why we should perform test cross? It is to test whether it is homozygous or heterozygous. Whether the given hybrid is homozygous or heterozygous, you can identify by means of this test cross only. Yesterday we took one example related to pea plant only, but flower color of the pea plant we have taken as an example. In the flower color, there were 2 characters. One of 2 traits were there. One of them is called violet flower. Some other plant were producing white flower. During monohybrid cross, Mendel showed that violet color is the dominant character. That means violet color can exist in any of the 2 forms. Either it can be capital W, small w, or it can be capital W. In these 2 forms, it can occur. That is the violet nature. What about white means? It is the recessive character. Based on the monohybrid cross, we can say who is dominant, who is recessive, or based on F1 generation, we can say which is dominant, which is recessive. Here, white is recessive, it is made up of small w, small w. Now, how to identify whether this is homozygous or heterozygous? In bold, we can say it is a heterozygous, homozygous, like that. But by seeing the plant, by seeing the hybrid, we cannot say that. For that, we have to perform a test cross. That is what? Imagine we are taking a condition here. If the hybrid is heterozygous, if the hybrid is heterozygous, what result it can give, we have to see. If the hybrid is heterozygous, then how it will produce the result? You see, hybrid is heterozygous, means we are taking capital W, small w. Whom you have to cross? It has to be crossed with recessive parent. Recessive parent will be small w, small w. Hybrid is violet in nature, and this one is white. So a white flower producing plant is crossed with violet producing flower producing plant. Now you see, they produce the gamete like this. You know, gametes are haploid, we have seen. They must be circled also. Here this plant will produce two types of gametes like this. Now next step will be fertilization. During fertilization, you can remember Punnett square we have introduced in the previous class. And here you can take one male gamete, another male gamete. Here these two gametes I am taking here. This side, you know, in the row, in this one column, we are taking small w like this. Now you see, if this gamete happens to fuse with this one, resulting individual will be capital W, small w. If these two are fusing, small w, small w. If these two are fusing, you know, capital W, small w, here small w, small w. That means we can get violet color here. We can get white color here, again violet, again what is that, white, like this we are getting. That means 1:1 ratio we are getting if at all the given hybrid is heterozygous. That's what I wrote here. If the given hybrid is heterozygous, what ratio it will produce during test cross? It will produce both violet and white individuals in 1:1 ratio. So if you get 1:1 ratio in test cross, I am talking about F1 generation only. You are not going to do F2 generation. It is not F2 ratio. It is F1 ratio. In the F1 ratio, if a test cross gives 1:1 condition, phenotypic condition, then you can say that given hybrid is heterozygous. That is one point. Second thing is, if the given hybrid is homozygous, imagine, let me write it here separately. If the given hybrid is homozygous, how it will behave, what ratio it will produce in the F1 generation during test cross, we have to see. So, if the hybrid is homozygous, let me write here. If it is homozygous, what will be the genotype we are taking? We are taking as capital W, capital W. That is the violet, homozygous violet. It is homozygous violet we are taking. It is crossed with recessive parent, small w, small w. That is white, white flower producing individual. Now they produce the gamete like this. This is one gamete with capital W, another gamete with another capital W. Here you are getting small w, small w. What will be the offspring, resulting offspring? We shall go for Punnett square. Here, let me take one male gamete, another male gamete, these two I am taking here. And here no small w and small w we are taking. Imagine if these two are fusing, the resulting individual will be like this. And capital W, small w. If these two are fusing, capital W, small w. Here you can see capital W, small w, and you can see all of the offspring will be violet only. This is also violet, this is also violet, all the four of them are violet. Please recall, please remember the difference between this cross and that cross. Here you got both violet and white in 1:1 ratio. Violet and white were produced in 1:1 ratio. But here no white has been produced. Only all the 100%, all the individuals are violet flower producing individuals only. So what is the inference we are getting here? If a test cross gives 100% dominant offspring, then it will be, the given hybrid will be homozygous. If the test cross gives 1:1 ratio of both dominant and recessive respectively, then the given individual is heterozygous. I hope you got this point. This is the significance of test cross. It is an important 3-mark question. That's why I repeated it, even though it was taught in yesterday's class. Just you can make note of how homozygous behaves in test cross. How heterozygous hybrid behaves in this one test cross, you have to make note here. And another point is, in test cross, you are going to see only about offspring, not about F2 generation. We are going to see only about F1 offspring. So, by seeing the F1 offspring, you can find out the unknown genotype of the parent. By observing children, you can say about the parent. That is called a test cross, remember. If the hybrid is homozygous, 100% dominant character in the offspring. If the hybrid is heterozygous, it will be 1:1 ratio. Please make note of this one. Yesterday I drew the chart with different whatever as it is given in the book. Today you can just make note of this for your understanding. 1 minute. Okay, students, let me continue with monohybrid cross. Still there are some more points related to monohybrid cross. We shall continue about this. Please. See, Mendel published his results in 1868 in Brunn, in a place called Brunn. But during that time, his theories were not made popular due to various reasons which we discussed in the previous classes. What happened? Up to some 30 years, 32 years, Mendelian ideas were not made popular by the scientific community. But in 1900, 3 different scientists independently, they rediscovered Mendelian principles. Independently, when they were performing some genetical experiment, they wanted to collect a reference for their experiment. When they tried to collect references, they realized that there was a person called Mendel who did a pioneering experiment in genetics with better systematic method and everything. Based on that, these 3 scientists made Mendelian principle more popular. Remember, already I told you who are those 3 scientists. Anyhow, recall this point. One of them is called Hugo de Vries. Hugo de Vries from Holland. He proposed he was one of the rediscoverers of Mendelism. Holland, okay, not our Holland. It is Holland, Hugo de Vries. He also later introduced the idea of a mutation. Second scientist whom you have to remember here is Karl Karens. Karl Karens did some work in monohybrid cross with some other plant, not in pea plant. We will study about Karens' contribution later. Karl Karens was from Germany, and he also one of the rediscoverers. He is also one of the rediscoverers of Mendelian principle. Third one is von Schermark. You have to remember von Schermark. Von Schermark was belonging to same country where Mendel born, Austria. So Hugo de Vries, Karl Karens, von Schermark, they are the rediscoverers of Mendelian principle. They are the rediscoverers. About them there may be questions in 1 mark and 2 marks like that. About their contribution also we are going to see in this lesson. Now you see, till 1900 Mendelian principles were not popular, but in 1900 it was rediscovered and made public. But later also what happened means, in the year 1901 like that, some of the scientists showed that whatever ideas proposed by Mendel were applicable to pea plant. What Mendel did in pea plant is accepted, but there are some plant and animals which do not obey the Mendelian principle. There are some plant and animals which do not follow law of dominance. So they have become deviated from Mendelism. We cannot say that whatever Mendel has told, according to that all the plant and animals should undergo inheritance. There are some deviations also. When that deviations came to exist, or when that deviation came to light means it was in 1900. What is the first deviation we are going to study here is one of the principles called incomplete dominance we have to see. Remember the basic of this point I am talking. Mendel introduced concept of dominance. Okay. But every plant and animal need not follow concept of dominant only. There may be some plants who will not obey dominance. They may inherit in different pattern, another pattern. That second pattern you have to recall here is about incomplete dominance. What is that incomplete dominance? What are the experiments done? Who did that incomplete dominance? Everything we are going to see. Another 3 mark question, sometimes 5 mark can be, in 5 marks also it can be asked. Same Karl Karens did some work in a plant called Antirrhinum majus. Antirrhinum majus is the name of the plant where Karl Karens did some monohybrid crossing. Even there were other scientists after 1901, after Karl Karens, some other plants were also found to be reporting incomplete dominance. They did not follow dominance, they followed incomplete dominance. Who are they means some other example you can remember is Mirabilis jalapa, it can be called. Even in a plant called Mirabilis jalapa also we can come across incomplete dominance. Remember, Antirrhinum majus is commonly called as snapdragon plant. Snapdragon. Mirabilis jalapa is otherwise called as evening primrose. It can be called. Commonly it is called as evening primrose plant, or otherwise 4 o'clock plant, like that it is called. In these two plants, pattern of inheritance during monohybrid cross was different from Pisum sativum. They did not behave like Pisum sativum. They behaved something different. What is that behavior? Listen. In both the cases, of course, let me tell you about Karl Karens. He did work in Antirrhinum majus. In Antirrhinum majus, flower color is taken as an example. You forget about Pisum sativum. Let us come to incomplete dominance. Flower color is the character studied by Karl Karens. Just like Mendel studied about flower color in Pisum sativum, Karan studied about flower color in Antirrhinum majosa. In Antirrhinum majosa or Snapdragon, there were two traits with related to this character called flower color. What are those traits means? Some of the varieties or some of the Antirrhinum produced red colored flower and some of them produced white colored flower. So some individuals were red flower producing Snapdragon, some Snapdragon were producing white colored flower. As in Paisamsa type, violet and white we studied. Here red and white are the flower color in the Antirrhinum majosa. What work was done by Carl Carnes means he took one red flower producing plant and he crossed it with one white flower producing plant. So red and white were crossed. In F1 generation or in first generation, he got all pink varieties in this case. Please remember, neither red has come here nor white has come here. A new character called pink has been expressed in the F1 generation. If at all red had come here, we could have called it as raw dominance. If at all white had come here, we could have told that white dominates red. It can be like anything. But neither of the parents appeared here. An intermediate character of red and pink, red and white called pink appeared here. When there is red and white mixed, we get a pink colored condition. So this pink colored individual became the first generation offspring. Now Carnes got a doubt why there is no law of dominance. Then he wanted to go for F2 generation. As Mendel did, Carnes also took two such pink colored individuals and selfed them, or what that he conducted hybridization cross. Or one pink and selfing, it can be done. When two such pink varieties are crossed for F2 generation, I am repeating here, F1 offspring have become the parents for F2 generation. Two such pink varieties are crossed. In F2 generation, Carnes observed red flower producing Snapdragon as well as pink flower producing Snapdragon as well as white flower producing Snapdragon. All the three appeared in the F2 generation. There were some of the offsprings were producing red flower, some of them were producing pink flower, others were producing white flower. In what ratio means? 1:2:1 ratio, they produced this one. Students, recall this point. There is no the characteristic 3:1 ratio. It has deviated from the popular ratio, and the phenotypic ratio of this cross is 1:2:1, not 3:1. So this is the phenotypic ratio. What is the phenotypic ratio of incomplete dominance? It is 1:2:1. What we have expected, 3:1 we expected, but it has become 1:2:1. Now Carl Carnes realized this Snapdragon and the flower coloring Snapdragon does not follow Mendelian dominance. They show some deviation. They inherit the flower color by a different method. A new character has been appearing. Neither the male parent nor the female parental character appeared. A new character appeared here. This intermediate character is appeared here means there is no perfect dominance. It is called incomplete dominance. If red had dominated, it's okay. Or white could have dominated. Both did not appear. A new variety you are getting. Please recall, when you crossed tall and dwarf, you got tall. When you crossed violet and white in pea plant, you got violet. But here, neither red nor white. A new character comes here, that is an intermediate character. When an intermediate character is appearing in F2, F1 generation, we call it as incomplete dominance. what is the explanation we can give for this process? Let me continue here. Same thing, let us go for explanation. Please listen. Imagine what are the parents we have taken. Parents we have taken for this cross is red flower producing snapdragon and white flower producing snapdragon we have taken. What is the genotype of the parent? Let me come to those 5 steps which I told you in the previous classes. We are going to see about genotypes here. What is the genotype we are getting here? For red, let me put 2 capital R, capital R, capital R, capital R here. For white, let me put small r, small r. Of course, we do not know whether it is dominant recessive at that time. Just let us take some examples, some symbols we can take. Nothing is there in the symbol. Capital R, small r, we are taking. Okay, remember why it should be 2 capital R? Because parents are always diploid. Right. Next step is gamete formation. This parent may produce anthrozoid. If you take this as female, it will produce egg. Now anthrozoid or egg will be formed by meiosis, reduction division. 2n condition will become n, diploid will become haploid in gametes. This is one haploid gamete, this is one haploid gamete. What about this female egg? This is one haploid egg, this is another haploid egg. Next step is fertilization. For understanding fertilization, we follow the Punnett square. Okay, remember, it is the graphical representation of possible genotypes and offsprings produced in a hybridization cross. So you are taking a graphical representation by taking the Punnett square. Let us take male gametes in the top row and female gametes in the first column or left column we shall take. Remember what are the individuals produced? Capital R, small r, capital R, small r, capital R, small r. All the individuals were found to be pink only. You should not think that it must be red because capital R will dominate over the small r. Why? According to the experimental result, your explanation should be there. Not according to our expectation, antirrhinum will reproduce. Okay. So here you got pink, that is the reality. So you are taking this as reality, these are pink only. You should not write it as red because your red is not produced. So what you are getting, all the pink varieties we are getting. Let us take this, so all are pink. In F1 generation, all are pink. These are F1 offspring. Shall we go to second generation? Okay, second generation we shall see now. Listen to me. For second generation, parents of F1 offspring have become the parents, offspring of F1 generation, offspring of F1 generation have become the parents for F2 generation. Who are they? 2 pink varieties we are crossing. What are the genotype? You may recall, genotype I have given in the Punnett square. Capital R, small r, capital R, small r. What are the gametes we are getting? Same, capital R in one gamete, small r in one gamete. Here, these are the female gametes, let us take. What will be the type of fertilization? It is a random fusion we have seen. For understanding that random type and probability, we shall take a Punnett square technique here. One is capital R, here small r. Here capital R, here small r. We are taking these 2 gametes here. Remember what is the offspring produced? Capital R, capital R, capital R, small r, capital R, small r, small r, small r. Dear students, remember when it is capital R, it is red only. Is it not? Red variety. When it is capital R, small r, let us take pink variety. This is pink because there is no law of dominance. And here when it is red, small r, it is white. So are you getting 1:2:1 ratio? 1 red is produced, 2 pink are produced and 1 white are produced. 1:2:1 ratio we are getting as the phenotypic ratio. It is not a 3:1, it is 1:1, 1:2:1 only in this case. This is the phenotypic ratio of this antirrhinum majus. Where our explanation with the symbols is exactly similar to the result obtained by Kalkarans. Here I told you the experiment, here I explained it with the symbols. So our symboling is matching with the real result. So this is correct. One red, two pink and one white we are getting. What is the point we have to infer? There is no question of dominance. Neither red has become 3 and one dwarf like that, nor white has become 3 and one red like that. There is no 3:1 ratio. You are getting 1:2:1 ratio. Shall we see what is the genotypic ratio of that individual, of these individuals? Let us think about genotypic ratio. Are you listening? Okay. Genotypic ratio, if you analyze, means there is one homozygous red and two heterozygous pink and one homozygous white. Genotypic ratio is also 1:2:1 only when if at all it is an incomplete dominance. I told you 4 types of ratios so far. Monohybrid phenotypic ratio, monohybrid genotypic ratio, incomplete dominance phenotypic ratio, incomplete dominance genotypic ratio. What is monohybrid phenotypic ratio? 3:1. What is monohybrid genotypic ratio? 1:2:1. Is it not? And what is the phenotypic ratio of incomplete dominance? 1:2:1. What is the genotypic ratio of incomplete dominance? Again 1:2:1 only. So, in incomplete dominance, F2 generation will produce both phenotypic and genotypic ratio as 1:2:1. This is F2 offspring. Remember, in a test cross, you are not going up to F2 offspring. In incomplete dominance, we are going up to F2 offspring. Here, you are getting 1:2:1 ratio only during this what process? Incomplete dominance. I hope you got this point. A 5-mark question. Explain incomplete dominance with an example, or explain Kalkarans study like that, or in antirrhinum majus it can be asked. Similarly, monohybrid cross also we have seen with reference to Mendelian principle. Lastly, I will tell you a few more points related to this. Half a minute, if at all you want to write anything, please make note. Let me continue. Just listen this point. So we have seen how snapdragon deviate from pea plant. Pea plant produces 3:1 as phenotypic ratio, 1:2:1 as a genotypic ratio. But a snapdragon produces 1:2:1 as both phenotypic and genotypic ratio. So that is the deviation. There is one question now. What is the, or how to explain the concept of dominance? why some alleles are behaving dominant, why some are behaving recessive, who made capital T dominant and small t recessive, what is the reason for that dominance. So I am going to explain about concept of dominance here. A 2-mark question can be asked based on this. Even in NEET exam, a question was asked based on concept of dominance. What is this concept of how to say that some are dominant, some are recessive? What makes a gene to be dominant? What makes a gene to be recessive? That we have to see. Before going in detail about that dominant and recessive, let me recall one more point which I told you in the previous classes. You must recall how a gene behaves. Gene behavior we have to see here, or gene action we have to see here. How a gene act in an individual. So it is called as a mechanism of gene action, or otherwise gene behavior it can be called. Whatever gene we take, they will be made up of DNA and a group of nucleotides. We know that. A gene is after all nothing but a group of nucleotides only. These nucleotides are capable of producing some enzymes or some proteins, whatever it is. They are responsible for giving a message for enzyme production or protein production. So in our body, proteins are synthesized in our ribosome of every cell. For that ribosome, who gives the order for which enzyme should be produced, how that enzyme should be produced, everything, message will be given by gene only. So gene is responsible for producing, it is not producing enzyme. It will control the action of enzyme production. What is the role of this enzyme? These enzymes will be responsible for converting a particular substrate into a product. Remember this point. So a particular substrate will be converted into a particular product depending upon the enzyme activity. Who is responsible for that enzyme production? It is gene. So gene will control gene will regulate the production of enzyme. That enzyme will catalyze the conversion of substrate into product. That product will become our phenotype. Remember. So we are having a sharp nose means that is due to a protein or product. That product formation is under the control of enzyme. Enzyme formation is under the control of gene. Remember. Let us consider now a heterozygous condition. We shall consider the heterozygosity condition or a heterozygous condition. Let us consider. Remember, in the heterozygous condition, we take one capital T and one small t. Imagine these two are the alternative forms of a gene. I told you, alternative forms. Now, T, let us imagine capital T is a original gene. It is the original gene, or it is the normal gene, imagine, or otherwise it is the dominant gene, we can say. This dominant normal or original gene can also be called as a wild gene also. These are the adjectives we give for capital T. That means it is giving us tallness. What is the product we are getting from this gene? It is helping for tallness of the plant. The plant has to grow above 1 meter tall means you need capital T there. So that is the product we are getting from this gene. Now imagine when this capital T is undergoing inheritance for several years, several generations, due to evolution, due to a point called mutation, this capital T will undergo a modification. It will undergo some modification and it will produce its alternate version in the population. See, it is the wild type. It is the original type. that original type need not be present throughout the history of Earth. During evolution, this original type can undergo some modification. Because of that modification, we get another version of capital T. That another version is called as what? That is small t. Remember this point. So capital T is original, but small t is the modified part. Let me call small t as a modified part, a modified gene. It is not a normal gene. Normal is capital T, and it is not. It need not be dominant. It is not the wild type. So this is modified, whereas capital T is original. Original means, can we call it as unmodified? It is not yet modified. It is unmodified version. This is the modified version. Why that modification took place? Because of evolution, because of mutation. Remember. Right. Let us see now how this small t could behave. Remember, students, this modified allele can behave in three ways. In three methods it can behave in the population. First method will be, it may be producing because of modification. When the modification, degree of modification is somewhat less, it may produce same enzyme. Sometime it may produce same enzyme only, or otherwise it may produce a less efficient enzyme. It will produce less efficient enzyme. It will produce. Okay. If not, there will this small t, because of modification, because of mutation, it may produce enzyme, but that enzyme will be a non-functional enzyme. Imagine this point. Due to modification, what is due to modification, what are the effect we are getting in this small t? Okay, listen to this. Either it may produce same enzyme or less efficient enzyme, or it will produce a non-functional enzyme, or sometime it may not produce enzyme also. So any of the three things will, in any of the three ways, this small t will behave. Say capital T will behave by producing tallness, just in that method. After modification, how small t could behave? Either by producing less efficient or same enzyme, or by producing non-efficient enzyme, non-functional, or by not at all producing enzyme, no enzyme at all. Now listen, if at all, this is the first case, if at all modified gene is producing same enzyme, means capital T and small t will be considered equivalent. Modified, in the first case, let us see that in the first case, both modified gene and or modified allele, basically alleles are genes only, modified gene and unmodified gene, that means original one, okay? Original one, both are same when it is like first type. Suppose if it is of second type and third type, imagine there is no functional gene, no enzyme, no functional enzyme means, that means small t, even after modification, small t become useless. Then in a second and third type, who will determine the phenotype means? Only unmodified allele. The unmodified or original or dominant allele will determine the phenotype. Will determine the phenotype. I hope you get this point. Modified, due to evolution, original allele will undergo modification. that modified allele can behave in three ways. Either it may produce same enzyme or less efficient enzyme, or it will produce non-functional enzyme, or it will not produce any enzyme. Suppose if it behaves in the first type, if it produces same enzyme and less efficient enzyme, we can say that both modified gene and unmodified gene are behaving similar. Both are normal, both are equivalent, we can say. Modified allele and non-modified allele are equivalent with each other. But if it behaves in second and third method, if it is not producing enzyme, non-functional enzyme means, what is the meaning? Unmodified allele, that means original allele, will be determining the phenotype. That is what happens in the dominance. Capital T and small t are there, but the enzyme or the product produced by small t is no useful, non-functional, imagine. Then who has to determine? The phenotype will be whom it is depending. It is depending on capital T only. So in the presence of capital T, the small t does not function. No functional enzyme is produced here. Then it will become a dominant phenotype, we can say. And this is known as law of dominance or concept of dominance is explained in this manner. What you have to remember, a gene need not behave similar for several generations. They can also undergo modification during evolution. Because of modification, what happens? Different avatars it takes, or different versions it takes. Capital T has taken one version called small t. It doesn't mean that only small t will start existing, capital T will disappear like that. It doesn't mean. Capital T will be there. In some individuals it has got modification. Those individuals will spread, inherit, that is small t. When small t is getting inherited, it may behave in these three ways. Either it will behave like capital T itself, because it depends on degree of modification. Or it may not produce functional enzyme, or it may not produce enzyme at all, or no product at all, non-functional product or same product. When such thing happens, phenotype will vary. The individual will get both capital T and small t. But small t is non-effective, means the phenotype is determined by unmodified allele. This is modified allele, that is unmodified allele. Original allele, wild gene, it can be called. So, dear students, let me stop with this in today's class. Today we have seen about incomplete dominance and explanation for concept of dominance. Incomplete dominance can be asked in a 5-mark question. In Antirrhinum majus, it was done by Carl Correns. Then in concept of dominance, I told you how a modified allele could behave in a population or during inheritance, how it can behave, we have seen. Basically, you must know a gene is responsible for the production of enzyme. I am talking again responsible. They don't produce enzyme. They will govern, they will control the process of enzyme formation or protein formation. That protein will behave like a product and give us genotype or our phenotype may be. Genotype is here, phenotype will be through the product. This is the point we have to remember. If at all modified allele is producing same enzyme or less efficient enzyme, both of them are equivalent. Both will behave similar only. But if it is in different manner, who will determine the phenotype? Original allele will be responsible for determining the phenotype. Presence of this modified allele will not make difference, because it is not producing, either producing enzyme nor it may not produce a non-functional enzyme. Remember, that is concept of dominance. one interesting point is incomplete dominance is the deviation from Mendelism. Similarly, one more deviation we are going to discuss in the remaining classes, that is codominance. Incomplete dominance is different from dominance, and dominance and incomplete dominance we have seen. Let us continue further in the later classes. Thank you.